to the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust meeting of Thursday, July 11, 2024. It's 9 a.m. and we're in Memorial Hall and Town Hall. The meeting will be recorded on Westborough TV as well as being broadcast live. So it's 9 a.m. I'm doing a call to order. We had initially Julia O'Neill Welsh from Youth and Family Services and also the Westborough Housing Authority that was going to come and talk about the changes in the organization, delivery of services with Youth and Family Services. She called me yesterday. Somebody had been in their office that tested for COVID. She has a mask and everything, but she felt out an abundance of caution if she could defer to August. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, we have plenty of things to talk about. So we're going to jump right into approval of minutes. And we have, first of all, the May 9th minutes that Alan sent out. I had just a couple of items.
Okay, let me get ready here.
On page 3, the second bullet point, Ms. Storm asked of the residents in the separate business, and I'm not sure, was that asked if the residents in the separate, and when you
That
say
should be
business, is it the other building? Because there's 2 buildings.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Is that what you meant, Kate? Like, yeah, would
Yep.
they have access since they're not actually in that main
Correct.
larger unit? Okay. So that was one change. I had over on page 6, under new items, it's just a simple spelling. Glen, I think, is only one N. Glen Street. I looked it up and it showed Glen Street if I did.
Okay, I thought it was 2, but
Okay. So that's the only changes I had to the minutes for the, for the 9th of May. Any other changes or recommendations on the minutes? Seeing none.
Approve as amended?
Okay, second? All those in favor? Okay, moving on. We have the minutes from, now Monday, we had a special meeting because we had to move because of the Institute the previous week to Monday, June 17th. And the only change I had was on page 2. I just, under the 9/15 to 18 and 30 Lyman, it's 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet,
okay.
and it's, I think, says affordable housing and will, wait a minute, developers agrees to adhere, or agreed
Developers agree.
to adhere to all laws and regulations for affordable housing and will enter into a formal agreement with the trust.
Yes, that should be agree.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then, I know I'm very picky on stuff. I think on page 4, on the second bullet point,
Okay.
the last word should be, I think, ratio.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. It feels like a ration.
Ration.
Feels like a ration, but it's
Yeah, it
really a
feels like a ration. And then on page 5, the very last bullet point on that page, it should be 45 High Street Extension /6 instead of 5 Peach Street.
Yep, that's definitely a typo.
And then again, on page 6, towards the bottom, where it's Mr. Edinburgh, it's property on Glen Street, once again, one N.
I'm consistent.
You got it? It's,
Yeah.
okay. So those were the only changes I had. Anyone else have any comments, changes, additions?
There
corrections?
are a couple of instances where my name is misspelled.
Where?
I know it's hard to believe that my name is actually as cool as it is, but it's not Strom, it's Storm.
You were
So,
right.
on page 1, last bullet, under 901,
Okay.
and then.
I found four typos.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry about that.
it's okay, it's okay. It happens.
Okay.
All right, any other changes?
That is weird.
Motion?
Motion to accept as amended?
Okay, second? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. So it's on both minutes, it was 5-0, being present. Okay, moving on. We are, some project updates on the, first of all, we'll do the housing production plan, Mr. Herrera.
So, took the questions, changes that folks had sent along,
Okay.
passed those along to, the folks doing the report.
Yep,
That, along with some changes that Jenny had come up with them, or changes or questions, sort
Yep.
of, clarifications, for lack of a better term. They're working on those currently. They expect to have, quote unquote, the report done by the end of next week, so the 19th.
okay, wonderful.
The draft report, because then
Draft
it'll be
report.
presentation and further review.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
It's,
And
you
we'll,
know, it's sort of, it'll be more of it'll have the stuff. that was
Appendices
missing
and
in
everything,
that
yeah.
Draft.
okay, good. All right, so that's moving along.
Yeah.
Question on that.
Yep.
So, of course, for the Community Preservation Committee, we're working on our plan right now, and one of the things we have to put in is goals, and I'd like to pull from whatever there is in this, the housing production plan as part of that. Do you think the draft next week will be near final enough that I can use it as at
I
least a
think it
starting
will be.
point?
I think
Okay,
it's
yes.
sort of final.
Subject
pending
to
any-
additional
exactly,
review,
but
okay.
this is sort of their, okay, now it's good barring any glare.
Right, so at least a good starting point. Again,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
plan won't be finished for some time, so we'll be able to tweak that and run that by various committees as well. All right,
And
so-
obviously, once I get that, I'll pass it along to folks, so
Sure.
that way you
Yeah.
can
yeah,
start to read it, to get
Perfect.
familiar with it, more familiar with it.
great, thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions on housing production or anything? Yeah, I had quite a few comments, but I'm sure on the strategies, mostly.
Exactly,
Not
yeah.
so much on the, some of the demographics and, the data portion. Okay, 18/30 Lyman. As we had mentioned, our proposal, which was for the 750,000, was accepted, pending the lawyers having a final agreement. I did reach out, actually yesterday, I got a email from Mark Donahue, who is the legal rep for the Colangelos and that development, just asking Sharon Everett, our counsel, to get together. So we had, both Alan and I agreed that there needs to be a more formal agreement. Sharon initially just did some updates to our proposal, but we really need to form an agreement. And they agree. I mean, the Colangelos agree via Mark. So I sent that out yesterday. Sharon say, please reach out. I'll defer to you as far as, who does the first draft, et cetera, so whatever that protocol is. I think it's gonna be the Colangelos will do the first draft.
We should.
We should?
Just have Sharon draft it.
Okay,
I mean, that was my ask to Sharon, that she turn our memo into an agreement, so that,
okay.
because it's really it's our municipal terms and conditions that have to be included in
Right.
it, and she will know that. And then this becomes a template for any
All
other
right,
type of subsidy we do in the future.
look at the email yesterday, just to make sure we're not
Yeah, I think,
in cross purposes.
yeah, I mean, I think from your communications with Sharon, my reading is that she's expected to draft the memo.
Okay, let's just
Okay.
double check, though,
Okay.
if you can, Alan, I appreciate that. So, that's all really exciting.
Yeah. Well, and of course, as always, please let me know if there's anything I can help review.
Sure,
Right.
absolutely.
Always help you to do
Absolutely.
that.
You know about
Always
that
have
law
ideas.
stuff? Yeah.
Yes, I always have ideas.
Um,
Some of them are even good.
Right. There was a very nice article in last Friday's Community Advocate. Maureen Sullivan is, one of the reporters. I don't know if anybody saw that, but it was on the left-hand column on the front page, and it talked about basically, what the deal is and what they're looking for, and the ability to do those extra 6 units. It came out as very positive, win-win for people, for both the town and for the developers there. Any questions on that or discussion?
So-
Okay, Alan, you have any?
Well, I was just saying, our goal should be to have an agreement to approve for signature or to sign for our next meeting.
Next meeting, okay. Yeah, if you, when you check with Sharon, can you
Yeah.
do that? I want to check, I need to check something too. We're going to go, I just got a note here. Okay. All right, check that later. Moving down, 25 Connector Road. Steve, Alan, heard anything?
So, we had the initial meeting. There is actually something, I was looking at my notes yesterday. We need to convene the working group for that, and get them some information. Fundamentally, this was a residence inn. It's been operated as a Sonesta extended stay. They're not part of the state emergency shelter program at this point. The owners are looking to convert it to long-term rentals, 109 units, the majority of which are studios and one-bedrooms. They're a handful. 5% will be fully handicap accessible. And they are interested in, they understand they have to be 20% affordable for zoning. They're interested in going to 25. They're also interested in willing to discuss rent units below the 80%, at either the 60 or the 50% AMI. And so part of the challenge, of course, is navigating the maze of potential programs at the state, and the fact that there are programs in the state where the most recent information is from 2016. And that the program's active, but you don't know if it's funded or whatever. I did find an email address for developers to send. And so I think if the working group comes together and we come up with a list of questions for the state, we can reach out to the state and make contact, let the developer know. The other thing that they're looking for is to understand what the HUD rents would be for Westborough at the various AMI levels, and we can pull that data and get that to them. So
it's I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so just the working group, we just should get together.
Which is
this week or
you,
early next
Steve,
week.
and Hank, right?
Hank, yeah.
Yeah, that's who we assigned last time.
Right.
Great.
So at least 2 of us, I know Hank's traveling, but so at least
Yeah.
2 of us should get together and sort of,
I'm around, I just got back, so.
and reach out and say,
Yeah,
here.
Alan's been traveling. I know the summer is
Yeah.
tough, but, okay,
And then
good,
get-
all
and get
right.
back
Yeah,
to them.
that would be a nice, to bring it up to 25. I think we need another 5 units there if we wanted to go to a 25%.
Six.
6 units, okay. All right, moving on. The Westborough Rental Assistance Program, and just a status update and next steps. We had some notes in the packet.
Yeah, so
That-
effectively where we're at is we're working on getting the final wording of the contract set to go.
Yeah, because I need to sign that. I was going to ask about
Right,
that.
right, yep, so they just need to okay. I know the folks at Metro West, it's vacation time and stuff in and out of the office. So now that I'm back, I'll follow up with them today on this. We'll get that going, and then they'll start putting the mechanisms in place. We should create, because I'm going to put together a master chart of all the working groups and who's on it, because I've lost track of which ones we've created and are working, which ones aren't. So I believe we need to create a working group for the project that will be both to help start building out the marketing, but also answer questions and refine the program guide as MWCD looks to implement Right, so they'll come back and say, ooh, you know, your guide says X, it'll be a little more efficient if we do X prime or Y, or, have you thought about Z? Let's put that in the guide, right? So there'll be some back and forth to the program guide, so that it aligns with the most efficient implementation of the program. And so we need a working group for that, and then the next steps will be, once the contract's signed, to meet with them and talk about marketing and presentation of materials, translation, things like that.
Cool.
Who wants to be
Who
on
would
the
like to
working group?
volunteer? Kate?
I'm being voluntold, which is fine. So I'm happy to do that. I'm also wondering if, I know Julia's not here today, but I'm wondering if we can invite Julia to be a part of that conversation, or
Yeah.
or if we have it during our next meeting while she's here, or if we just
I
have
would
a
do it as
a
part of
separate
your
group.
working group. You can bring her
Okay.
in as consultant or.
A member, she'd be a member.
She can be a member
Yeah.
of the working
She-
group.
Okay. We could also ask, I don't know what the status is of the Westborough, it's not Westborough Cares. I mean, Westborough Cares is a thing, but also like the,
Crookside
Connects
Foundation
or,
and-
it's the Human Service Alliance, HSA.
Right.
I'm curious if, like, yeah, what the status of that is. So I think working with Julia, because she would be the person to kind of know the status of those
Yep.
things, would be helpful to have her input on those things.
okay. So, does one be Alan, you, Kate, and Julia? Can you reach out to Julia to invite her
Yeah.
to join? Okay. Just want
Actually, can
to,
you reach out to Julia? Okay.
okay. I don't think we need any vote on this.
Nope.
Nothing official. Great, thank you. I think this, provides, particularly if we can get some those additional units in, with the 109, that would give us 26 or so units, around there, of affordable. And they're of nice size, they're small. I mean, they'd be,
We're
Yeah.
talking about two different things right now, right?
excuse me?
What are you talking about? 25 Connector
Oh,
Road?
I'm sorry, I'm
You floated back this way.
Yeah.
back, I'm falling back, but
I was like, where
Which
are
is
you
an exciting
going?
The wrap.
project. Right, the wrap. No, the wrap will be,
We're gonna wrap it up.
You're gonna
Yeah.
wrap it up, and then that would be appropriate for any place that,
Yep.
where people need it. And given that the eviction levels that we saw,
Yeah.
from the
Right.
report, this is so needed in town. Okay, we're set on that. All right, Ed, focus. Home borough would be the next.
we are in the same place. We're waiting for the final wording of the contract. We need to create a working group to finalize, to work with Metro West as they start on the implementation, to
Yep.
finalize the program guide and the rules, finish applications, and start planning the marketing and awareness campaign.
Right.
And so,
I'm happy to be on that working group, at this stage. Anybody else interested in, this would really be,
I'll join, yeah.
okay. And Alan, what's your feelings about being on it? I know you have your plate loaded.
my plate's pretty loaded, but I can assist with the relationship with Metro West.
Okay.
and stuff
Why don't we
like
do
that.
that, get that going?
And
I did
materials.
some
Yeah.
program material. We need to update, things like the website and everything. We need to get our
Yeah.
program guide and offering and applications and everything all finalized. So, that's gonna be,
Yeah.
we may tap you, Sarah, for some of the legal, because people are gonna have to apply, and this is a long-term loan, so it's a little bit more, I'll use the word complex. I mean, since we're entering into contracts as opposed to with RAP, you know, it's more just a subsidy. This is really an agreement.
Yeah, we're a lender.
And will we
Yeah,
have-
we'll be a
will-
lender.
Will we have legal counsel to support
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, yes,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
excellent,
Sharon can
excellent.
support it, but I'm just
Yes,
saying,
it would be helpful to
given the
review and
fact
share-
that it
yeah.
is gonna be legal agreements.
Sure.
It would be
And,
helpful.
and there are other down payment assistance programs
Mm-hmm.
that we can reach out to get their materials as samples,
Sure,
Okay.
starting
So-
yeah.
point.
Yeah,
So-
so we'll have to work out the details of how that works, but I expect at some point we'll want Sharon to look at probably each of these. And
Oh,
there-
yeah.
it won't end up being 200, it'll be a handful, I expect.
Oh.
So, of folks
Yeah.
who are involved in this, who will sign these contracts.
Well,
We'll
yeah,
see.
we've allocated 125,000.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
we come up with a standard agreement
Yeah,
that Metro West Collaborative Development will use.
Right, and then we'll just
Right.
review each one and ultimately sign
Well,
each one with the individuals.
Yeah, there'll be a
Yes.
signature with each one, you know, for each closing.
Right,
We'd be involved in each closing.
yeah,
But
because
we're-
this is part of
Yes.
closing would
Right.
be,
Yeah.
this has to be a rider.
Yeah, but
I assume
typically,
it's the-
typically the way it works is that we present the agreement, which is, you know, we are a subordinated loan, you know, that has.
and as it's
a
real
whole-
property
with-
complications and all of
with
that,
real-
yes,
That's backed by the
absolutely,
collateral of the
absolutely.
real property. We have a standard agreement, we don't, other DPA programs don't allow edits. So if the borrower's
Mm-hmm,
attorney says, oh, we don't like this clause, it's like,
Okay.
Take it or
this is
leave it.
this is the program, if you want. So that we're not.
Yeah,
having-
we're not getting
we
into.
don't want to set up a situation where if we have
Extensive
five,
negotiations for each, yeah,
where we have five different agreements for five different
Mm-hmm. Right.
households, right? We want
Yeah.
one agreement, we understand what the rules are, we understand how to enforce and manage.
yeah,
And everyone's on equal footing
right,
from a program standpoint. So
Yeah.
it's getting to that point where we have those agreements,
yeah,
you know, the agreements in place. And the only difference will be designation of, as to whether it's the grant, the deferred payment, forgivable loan, or just a deferred payment.
right. And we'll probably want Sharon's review at some point in each of these. Obviously, as a member of the committee, I can't also provide legal advice, but I can do
Right.
my legal training, review,
Yeah.
say, what about this, you know, how does this
Right,
tie
right,
into
right.
this, and all those
Yeah, I mean,
kinds of things. So happy to do
Yeah.
that, happy to do that.
Sharon or others on the team
Yes.
at KP Law will review everything before we finalize it.
Okay, yes, yes.
Um,
I didn't want to suggest that I was saying, I will
Right,
provide the
right,
legal
yeah.
support. So I want to make sure we're all aligned here. I'm absolutely happy to review, provide thoughts, comments, edits, and at the end of the day, we'll have the right people in place.
Right.
And hopefully, as you say, it will be kind of a form and pretty straightforward. Once we get through the first one, we'll have a good setup,
Yeah.
a good pattern for the future ones.
Okay, great. All right, next big project is 45 High and 6 Beach Street. Now, I'll get into it a little bit in our next section, some meetings we had earlier this week with, I'll call them home builders. They're, backyard ADUs, but they do more than just ADUs.
Right.
But we'll talk about that. But on the, maybe you want to bring us up to date, Alan, just on the,
Okay, so.
sort of what we need to do,
Yeah.
So
So-
Hank has been obviously involved in this, and
So at the last meeting, I talked about, and I reiterated, and it's in the packet, the MHP recommendations on how to move forward with the project. And the big thing is not that we stop short of permitting, right?
Right.
That, because if we permit the project, then if we sell it to a developer with a land development agreement, they're bound by governmental procurement rules, right, which we don't want to do, okay? But what we can do is, and what was recommended, we learned this at the Housing Institute, is one, get all the relevant boards and committees on the same page, supportive of the project, and the process we're going to go through, and resolve issues such as 45 High Street with the wetlands relocation, but we're not gonna go to the Conservation Commission and ask for the documentation and the permit. What we're gonna ask for is, here's a potential concept, we need to be buildable within these parameters. We will, the project would, require that the wetlands move 5X to be adjoining to the existing wetlands and be here, and have them vote and say, yes, that'll be acceptable, understanding that the developer will still need to go back with the final plans for the site.
Right. And that's for
Then,
45 high.
then the Conservation Commission can say, yes, it's within our expectation, and write the orders of conditions and all the other things, the details that need to happen. Similarly, it's, so it's anything that we would want in, about the properties, about the project, or that's been approved, or is a restriction that we would want to include in an RFP, so that the RFP is as detailed as possible. And so it's like, you can build in this box, and there's this much sewer allocation, you're gonna need this much septic. Septic can go here, not here. We can, you need a fire hydrant 20 feet off the street, it's 6 Beach Street, we know that already. We can build all of that in. We can go ahead and get the easement that we need at 6 Beach Street.
For the fire exit.
For the
across parking
emergency
lot.
vehicles to the parking lot.
Yep.
And work with them, because we're gonna take a space, and one of them might be, we might impact the handicap space that has to be relocated. And so, there's a whole list of things in the packet of actions, so the next step would be, to create the working group.
Yep.
Part of what the working group needs to do, since Westborough really hasn't done a friendly 40B, would be to meet informally with representatives of the ZBA and the planning board and recommend a process. And in my research, the process would be that we work with the planning board as if they could authorize the project under special permit. Go through the negotiations, have them come up, and effectively have them draft a special permit, which is nothing but a list of conditions we have to meet on the property, and that are acceptable to us, acceptable to them, and then we go to the ZBA, right? And again, we're going to the ZBA as a 40B.
The friendly.
Right, which means we're asking them to set aside local zoning requirements. So it's we're not asking for variance, we're asking for a comprehensive permit. And there's a difference in how the ZBA acts with that. So it's almost like, pretend the town is below 10%, we're coming before you, even though the town isn't. Evaluate the project, issue a comprehensive permit, and oh, by the way, comprehensive permits and special permits are really the same thing, it's just who issues it. If we've negotiated an acceptable permit for us and for the town, then the ZBA would take that under advisement. They still might make some adjustments or want to make some adjustments, but they'll go in. We would also have, at that point, the support of, obviously, the planning board, we should get the support of the select board, we should get the support of we'll have support of the Conservation Commission, we should get support, if there's a senior housing component of the Council on Aging, we should get support of Youth and Family Services for family housing components, so that the town, in all of its governance, is in agreement with how the project moves forward, so that so that when the developer goes to the ZBA for the comprehensive permit, it's all set and it goes smoothly. And having those
interesting.
votes recorded in the RFP will help attract more developers.
Right. It
So
says
that's-
you're
so
ready
that's-
to go, or we're over the initial hurdles.
Is there precedent for this? Is this what other towns have done, or is this
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
a
there's
proactive step that
there's a
we're, okay?
process.
Okay,
This is a
yes.
standard, it's really a standard process for municipally owned
Mm-hmm.
property that's going to be sold.
There's almost a
for affordable
pre-approval,
development.
pre-application, you kind of go through
Yeah.
all the steps,
It's-
and then the developer checks the box and maybe adds additional details and re-goes through those steps, but they already have a preliminary sign-off from all these commissions and committees,
Right,
and therefore.
they
it's-
have
yes,
guidance, they have agreed upon guidance,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more important that you've got agreement on the project, right?
Sure.
So, for example, when we looked at Endicott, street and possibly doing 3 townhomes there. And we went to ask the rec commission, do you have any plans or do you foresee any plans for use of that property?
Because it was a
The
piece
land,
of their
the land is
property.
controlled,
Sure.
but the land is controlled by the select board, not the recreation commission, but we were being good potential, neighbors and saying, if you want to expand the recreation area off the Chauncey parking lot, then we would back away. The recreation commission was like, well, no, but we don't think that's a good spot for affordable housing. Well, the latter part of that comment is out of their purview, right? Nevertheless, you want
A good relationship,
you
yes.
want boards and committees. Anyone that would have governance around the project to be in agreement with the project concept and direction and intent and what it might look like. And so what you're handing in the RFP to the developers are, here's a plan, we know what we want, the town's in agreement with this, as described. For them, it's like, okay, now what do they need? They need floor plans, they need engineering work, they need land plans, they need to know how much it's gonna cost to put the fire hydrant in.
Sure.
And those works, and so they propose a project sort of within the parameters that everyone's agreed to. When you go to the ZBA, it's like, okay, yes, it's a 40B, it's outside of normal zoning, but there's the benefit to the town is well-defined, right? The benefit to the developer is known, the benefit to the community is there. Let's go forward with it.
And
It's
this,
greasing the wheels.
this will be the first time that we've done this and the first time the zoning boards face this sort
Right.
of, this type of situation. Do you have a sense of the timeline that's involved? Is this something that can be done within a few months, or does it take a long time to go to all the boards, provide any additional documents they need, apply?
So
Yeah.
we have the one stop, and we have feedback from that. So based on
Sure.
that, I think we're ready to go to boards. The initial conversation is going to be really with the chair of the planning board and with the chair of the ZBA to say, look, this is the guidance we've gotten. This is how it's done in other communities. This is best practice. This is how we'd like to proceed. Are you comfortable with that? So that we can go at that point to the planning board. We can I'll follow up with MHP early next week. They're considering providing technical assistance for this project, which means they'd help us manage this process, and they'd even help write the RFP.
That would be good.
To go
'cause,
out.
Yeah, we
Now,
don't
we
have.
still, we
yeah.
still have decisions to make.
Yeah.
As far as would these be rental units or
Or
ownership
purchase.
units? And what mix? It's hard to mix 55 plus and non-55 plus in a development. We might be able to do it given we have 2 sites. We should definitely look at this as one project with 2 sites. So that, because a 10 or 11 unit, we're more apt to get state interest than a 4 unit and a 6, 7 unit
Yep.
project separately. Looking at, the housing production plan, we can discuss it at our next meeting, but as that plan's more finalized, my inclination would be that these probably should be ownership units. And that we should be targeting a mix of 80 and 60% AMI.
Yep.
And working in that direction.
Do we have a sense of when we'll hear back from the Massachusetts Housing Partnership on their level of involvement or interest?
I'll follow up with
Yeah.
them.
I'm not trying to like put a
they're
bunch of
interested.
to-dos on your
I-
plate. Yeah.
I had a-
yeah.
I had a
It's
really-
in their court, it's in our court.
Sure.
I had a really productive conversation with them, which was
Great,
the week
yeah.
before the Housing Institute, which is their, so they
Sure.
were busy. So now that things have settled down,
Was that with Shelley that you talked, or
no, there's a whole different
different
There's
group?
a different team that specializes in this, so.
And they've done this before, it sounds like. Is this?
Yeah.
Oh, so, all right, that'd
Yeah.
be good, because we don't, again, this will be our first time, this will be our zoning board's first time, so whatever expertise we can bring to bear will only be helpful.
Yeah.
Yep. All good stuff.
So I forgive my ignorance on how all of this works, but I'm just thinking back because like the permitting stuff, like it just boggles my mind. So
Everyone's, I think.
yeah, but I'm just thinking back to Charlestown Meadows. and that situation, and I just recall something with permitting and like the way that the whole thing
Yeah.
worked. It was something with permitting that allowed the, like it gave the opening for the property manager, but also gave us the loophole to work through. So I'm just like, my interest is making sure that these new developments that we create are in perpetuity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
just curious, like, how do we,
It will be explicit. in the
Yeah,
deed,
that would be
right.
explicit
Okay.
in,
So
in deeds. Plus, it would be a difference if, in the Charlestown Meadow, the issue was, it was built under a comprehensive permit.
right, so
Okay.
when Alan
I-
talked about comprehensive permit, I was like, what do we, like, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure we're.
Same
And
thing,
the
yes.
the comprehensive permit that allowed, well, part of that comprehensive permit was they were allowed to have a higher density than that area would allow, because normally that was, I think, single residential at the.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
so-
and still
yeah,
is. Let me just.
Okay.
And so,
Clarify.
they were given this ability to put more housing in a smaller footprint, if
Yep.
you will. What it came down to was, they thought that once they had paid off any state assistance money, then those units, those 24 units, would become affordable or marketable.
Yep.
You know, market rate units.
So they
And
thought it was
that's where
attached to
we
the
got
law.
involved, and there's a state case law that says, no, if you're under a comprehensive permit, then until you become conformant, which means they would have to knock down houses and build single residential, until you became conformant with the local zoning, it has to remain, you know, those units have to remain affordable.
Okay,
That was dealt. So was that case.
A
You know,
backdoor, yeah. But this, in this case, we'll make it more explicit. This is an actual
Yeah.
rider, you can't transfer
Right,
it unless
right,
somebody
Right,
meets the
if we
qualifications.
go,
Yes.
and I agree with Alan, as much as
Right.
if possible, if these can be owner occupied, i.e., you know, units, whether, you know, they're single, they're duplex, whatever, I mean, you know, like a condo kind of environment, whatever makes sense, those deeds would be restricted to be affordable in perpetuity.
okay,
In other words, it would be sold in perpetuity. It's basically what we wound up kind of backing into on Lawton's Way. You know,
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
sort of.
right,
And the way Baylor was written, right?
right,
Yeah.
And if these are, because these are multiple units on a single property, there'd be a master deed as well as a deed for each unit. The master deed would include the restriction as well as
Okay.
the individual unit deeds.
okay, all right, cool.
And it would go through the normal LIP and normal process through
Okay.
the OHLC and
Okay.
finding it.
Okay,
I have one request, so we need a working group on this. And the other request that I have is that we name the project, because 45 High Street Extension / 6 Beach Street is a lot. It doesn't really flow off the tongue.
You should come up with names. I think, well, let's talk about people. I think Hank obviously has been involved in these properties, particularly 45 High. So, and I think he's pretty familiar with, you know, permitting, the one-stop shop, the, you know, the various groups in town. I mean, he knows his way around town. So he should be part of that committee. I'm thinking maybe Ken would be another person, but I'll talk to him about his availability.
Okay.
You know, but once again, at this stage where we're really doing a
Right.
lot of pre-construction work, if you will, he might be good, and we engage him with that. And then, anybody else? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'll,
if you want to step in for now, I think,
I-
you know,
I-
we're
I
going
can
to
step in
have
for
phases.
now. I don't know
of
if,
this.
Sarah, if this is something you wanted to help out with.
I'm interested, but we will need the leader and the driver, and I don't know if you want to play that role as you do with so many projects.
I can.
Yeah.
This-
Yeah, so why, maybe well, does it make sense for Ken to be involved now, or maybe later when we get to more construction? Maybe I can be involved now, and we can think about transitioning if we get to the point where we need more of the construction expertise.
That
Yeah,
works.
Yeah.
you know, I'm just
That
throwing
works.
Yeah.
out, anybody that's interested is fine.
Yeah.
I wrote your name down.
All right, I'm interested, I'm interested.
You're
Yeah.
on,
But I do understand we have a lot of good expertise in our group as well, so,
Yeah,
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 we want to make
but-
sure we
but-
bring
But
that
Hank, I
together.
think, is the, you know, has
The
been
permitting,
permitting, he understands this.
Sure.
You know, and once again, getting together as a group, you can divvy up responsibilities, et cetera. All right,
For a project name,
yeah, you have an idea?
I was just gonna say, something cottages, because we know they're
Westborough Cottages?
Westborough cottages.
we might
For
want
start.
to use that many times, though. This is the first of many
Right.
such projects.
Well,
Phase
when it was,
one.
Yeah,
when it was,
Westborough
when,
cottages
when,
one.
when it
How
was,
about the villages?
no.
No.
When we were thinking they would be two separate projects, I was thinking, you know, high street cottage, you know, cottages on High Street, or High Street cottages and Beach Street cottages. But for now, temporarily, if we could just,
High beach
I was gonna say
cottages,
just HB cottages and.
high beach cottages,
HB cottages? Okay,
I like HB cottages.
high beach.
Yeah, or high beach
And that way we can reuse the cottage part if we have a different property, right? Like,
yeah.
Downtown cottages, I don't know. We can think on it a little bit, you know.
Okay,
It
we'll
becomes
use
you and a
HB
dream.
cottages for now.
Yeah.
Just, it's easier to
that's
type
a
in the
working-
minutes.
it, I also like the
And all the
shortness of
time,
it,
the
right?
shortness of it.
Sort of along those lines, I'm gonna actually do, well, where are we here?
Finances, which we're
Finances,
skipping.
which, okay, I have not received closing numbers, so
Okay, that could take a
cannot
while.
We don't have those.
I've done a lot of work. I mean, I have the templates all sorted out. I have the portfolio, where did I put stuff? I have the statement that I'm gonna be getting every month from Rockland Trust, which is this, which basically shows us, you know, the state of our portfolio and income, et cetera. So I have this for end of year. So I have our
Okay.
assets down for end of year, but I'm waiting on final expenses, really.
Okay,
Okay, but,
Is
you
it
can
much
see,
different than-
I have this much done on the consolidated, statement of activities. I have a little less done on the,
Right.
well, this is a consolidated statement of activities. I need a consolidated statement of position, financial position.
right, and then we'll build, terminology is different, but effectively a balance sheet in a.
Well, that's what the financial position is, it's
Right,
the
right,
balance sheet.
The balance sheet,
Yeah.
and then there's,
And then if we wanted to go, the other things that we would do is like cash flow, if we wanted to. These are the two main ones. I'd want to make sure that everything lines up between these. Like, we went over the document, the financials that I prepared, which are good for, if you will, internal purposes, because it gives more detail, it can expand things more, as opposed to a document such as this, which would be more external.
Yeah.
So that, like if a bank needed to see, well, what's your state, what's your financial position? We can give them something that is summarized in standard nonprofit, this. And this was, I used a template, I mean, I've done these before, but I used a template out of Habitat for Humanities, how they lay things out. I mean, it's pretty standard across all nonprofits. If you look at them, they have basically the same categories with that. So anyhow, we will have that for next meeting. The next
Issues and correspondence.
agenda is issues and correspondence. Okay, we, with Julia not being here, but also we had a shorter agenda anyhow. Last Monday, and this is sort of, had two meetings. One of the meetings was with a group that presented at the MHP Institute called Backyard ADUs. Okay, they did a presentation. Jenny was there, I was there, and Kristen, admin with the planning board. And Jenny went up, talked with them after the presentation, and they came out on Monday. Now, basically, they have started out in developing ADUs, but then they've expanded. They basically do modular homes, which can be everything from a small ADU, or they can expand that out. There are, and I'm gonna show you some things, it's more the concept of what's modular and what can, you know, smaller houses be, cottage-type houses be, not trying to push them. There are other developers in that space, but, you know, they were impressive, so. For example, like, here's a picture of a modular unit. I apologize, I don't have many things. Here's some,
I'm on their website, so.
like, inside pictures, pass them around, pass them down. This is, like, you know, how a modular unit would be brought in and sat down on a property.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
They have, they've done things with once again, here's like a two-bedroom diagram. And the back page shows it like a one-bedroom. Once again, these are small, not big units. These are, this is a two-bedroom, square footage is, I think, about
24 by
719 square feet.
24 by 12, yeah.
So about 800 roughly, that's what they talk
Those are
about,
cool.
so, you know, that would be the interior layout. Pictures, things like that. The idea being that their timeline, okay, in their case, because they have manufacturing facilities in Pennsylvania and Maine, all right, where the factories are. And they, assuming you have a site ready to go, in other words, High Street would be filled in, graded,
Right,
and utilities stubbed.
right.
Meaning, you know, you'd have the ability to, you know, they could tap right into, you know, in-grid box or, you know, what have you. Everything is electric. They're, in their case, they're up to stretch codes, 2x6 framing on the exterior, all heat, all electric,
Right.
heat pumps, et cetera. So they look at it from the site of, the site work started, meaning you have a level thing, like a 10-week development for a unit.
Right.
You know, because everything, they pretty much bring in almost a finished
Product,
product.
yeah.
I mean, the
It's
whole
about-
exterior, things like that. So,
It's
you
about
know,
90% done when they
yeah.
drop them on the pads.
Yeah,
So one approach, and more, once again, you know, this might be, as opposed to stick-built, they, you know, argue these are less expensive because they get the benefits of, you know, factory units. They're, you know, I don't want to say they're cookie cutter because they have a lot of layouts that they can do and things they can put together. They do duplexes, you know, so they take the same thing, maybe stack them one on top of the other, and then, you know, have, you know, two units on, you know, whatever our footprint is of what a one unit would be. So, you know, one approach would be, per Alan's comments earlier, as far as how far along can we get in our process of getting ready for these two properties. I could envision us getting, you know, this pre-permitting agreement done, then do an RFP to a general contractor who would then prep, at minimum, prep the sites like they would, Yeah, probably on High Street, demo the building.
Do they do the site work?
They can,
They can. So
okay, but
if we do site work, then we're encumbering the procurement on the project.
well, that's why I'm wondering, and we can get some maybe clarification on that, but one vision would be you hire a contractor, and if you want to go with this approach, because the numbers work, I mean, you just tell the general contractor, we want to use, a modular development for timing, for whatever other reasons. You prep the site, in other words, for High Street, they do the fill-in, they do the grading, they cut in the roads, they basically, they don't have to do foundations, but they have to give them, more or less a clear spot in which to start to put down the houses. On Beach Street, you could do the demo, cut the road in, things that, might take a little bit more work because of the nature of that property. Then what they would do is, sub out the physical placement and completion of the units. All right, the alternative would be they could do that and then hire somebody like what we've done on Baylor, whereas you hire somebody to stick build the homes in place, per our design. They will do, in this case, design, build things, so.
So, as you think about it, would this be something we would direct someone, a developer, to use these, or we'd make that an option? Like, this is an option you have available, we would accept proposals that include this as an option. At what point, if we're directing it, are we encumbering, right?
So separating the groundwork and the actual construction of the homes is
Right.
difficult because
You have to prep it
so
the way you need for the type
since
of,
they,
yes.
since this
yes.
company could subcontract out the prep work,
They could,
right? Then we would basically go, the RFP would say, look, we're looking for these units and these parameters. Our RFP can have a preference for modular. I mean, interestingly enough, just a couple days ago, MHP off their Facebook feed posted about a successful project. They actually toured a modular home manufacturer that has a large facility where they do their construction in Littleton, Massachusetts. And that project going modular, given the current economy and the construction costs, reduced the price of construction by 30%.
It may not have all the features that sometimes we ask for, such as, you probably won't have an electric plug-in along with these or something like that, right? So we would
that
have
may
to
be an
decide
option
what
you
we
can
want
ask,
to.
or you
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
could,
what we
you
wanna
could still, you
include.
can still put that in, and that, again, adding an EV charging station to the exterior of a building is not,
Yeah.
is
And
not.
and that's the example that came to
significant.
mind.
That could even be
I
done
recall
after.
us having a list of sort of environmental
Right.
preferences and so forth.
But
So, yeah.
we could, in the RFP, we could say that, modular unit construction is highly advantageous, whereas stick construction is advantageous.
yeah, in the end,
Right.
it comes down to what's the price gonna be
Right.
for.
Well, it's price and other conditions that we
Yeah, yeah.
want,
Sure.
that we think are most important, for the development.
Yeah.
So, I wanted just to start people thinking along certain lines of,
Sure.
these projects.
Right.
And what options we have, and, it depends. Do you get a general contractor, do they hire the developer, or do you hire?
Well, these
The
guys are
developers,
general
yes.
contractors, so.
Yeah.
And if we hire a general contractor, at what level, again, do we encumber the property, right? We have to be careful what we control.
Well, no.
Versus what the developer
There would be an
controls.
LGA
Yeah.
regardless of,
Yeah.
Right.
whoever is gonna build
Right.
Right.
We would,
the cottages.
but if a general contractor were gonna bid on this, and they know that the RFP says modular, and they come back and they say, well, we're gonna do it modular, then part of their bid would be, identifying who they're partnering with to
Sure,
do that part,
sure.
Yeah,
to do that part of it.
Yeah.
But typically, general contractors do the construction, right, and sub out.
But I
Yeah.
thought we were talking about, we would hire a general contractor.
No.
At that point, are we the developer? Okay,
If
so
we,
we
if
can't
we hire,
do that.
if we hire, a
We
gen-
wouldn't, well, yeah.
we're, so we're selling or
sell
giving the
the
property to a
Okay.
developer.
Yes, they
Okay.
will do the rest of the
And
process.
they
Yes,
Right.
I'm
They would
tracking.
have-
build to the spec of the agreement.
Right, we would
Yes.
have specs, and we would have, a land use agreement, which would say,
Right.
these have to now be deeded affordable. If they can all be affordable, there may,
Yeah.
depends upon cost and everything, whether, one or two might have to be market rate in order
Sure.
to make some of the numbers work. That's all, where we have to do pro formas on that. But yeah, what we want to do is, once again, be like a real estate investment trust. We will sell you this, you develop it under these conditions. Very similar in the model of Baylor, although it would be different, just because of scope and size.
Yeah, I mean, the RFP will be more involved.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
So,
and the LDA will be a little bit more involved.
right, and
But-
but hopefully, MHP can help with some of that.
Yeah.
We understand from housing production what some of the key points are that
Sure.
we want to serve. And that's it. So just wanted to share this. Didn't want to go too far because, once again, I don't want to step onto promoting
Right,
a developer, per se. As
yeah.
I said, there are others. These are impressive. I mean, just the fact
Right.
that you can see what can be done with modular.
So, I mean,
Right.
certainly
The
we can-
economics might make a lot of
We can
sense,
go around and
yeah.
look at similar
Yeah.
using modular development.
Yeah, well, remember, this goes out to bid, it goes on
Yeah.
to, in Westborough, we do all of our bidding electronically, so it goes on to the state site.
State site.
Certainly, folks who've expressed an interest in working with us, we can let them know when it's available. And they
Right,
can go through,
Yeah.
that process.
Yeah.
yeah. That
And
seemed
these
like-
folks have visited both sites because they
Sure.
were in town. And they actually are doing an ADU over on Summer Street, they said.
Okay.
Summer? Yeah, Summer. Lady over there was building, was something, I think she's gonna move into that, and then her son and family moving into the big house, something like that. Okay. Any other questions on,
Backyard
that?
ADUs.
We sort of have covered, I
Yeah.
think the
Yeah.
cottages.
Yeah, I figured that this would be a hot topic at the Institute because as it's been passed by the Senate, it's gonna go to conference committee, the housing bond bill, yeah.
Did the provision get passed by the Senate?
The ADU provision, I believe, is in the Senate version.
Okay, because they were gonna vote on it last week.
It was voted. The Senate passed,
And I looked through the,
Yeah.
the congressional record.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it couldn't.
Senator
find it.
Moore published that the housing bond bill has passed the Senate, differences from the House bill, so
They
there'll be
have
a
to get in
conference
committee.
committee. But potentially, there's going to be a statewide zoning.
By right of
That'll
ADUs.
allow separate structure ADUs by right within certain limitations statewide. Of course, the first thing that's gonna happen is there'll be lawsuits to stop it. Because any effort to do zoning statewide in Massachusetts comes up against a lot of resistance, but we'll see how see how it plays out.
But in Westborough, ADUs are by right if they're attached.
Yeah.
But
Right,
this would also then allow detached
right.
by right. So, but we'll see where that goes there. I was talking to one of our reps on another topic, and I was asking about the bond bill. He said, well, I said, when do you expect the session to end? And she said, July 32nd. The current general court. Anyhow, other thing, once again, this is very, very preliminary. Also on Monday, there's a property at 134 Fisher Street where the developer, a fellow by the name of Rich Record, R-E-C-O-R-D, who Ken knows, apparently. And, oh, by the way, Ken was, when we met with the people from Backyard ADUs, it was Jenny, myself, and Ken were there. What this is a small house development. I know Alan's familiar with it. Its initial design is for 18 small units. Now, this is, once again, the developer this is new. All right, there's no funding in place yet, et cetera, but he was looking at units that were, I think he was saying 500,
They're like 500,
76 576 square feet.
these are one bedroom.
These would be one bedroom, and he would be working
Rentals.
with this company, or this, how should I say, agency, for lack of a better word, called Advocates. Basically, they work with a lot of people coming out of rehabilitation of some kind,
Yep.
both mental, substance abuse, et cetera. They would basically, almost sounds like, be the marketing arm, like finding the people, and he says, there's no problem finding the people. These would be rentals. We connected him with the Backyard ADU, saying, this may be a perfect site where you can just boom, 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 because the way he has it in this diagram is basically they're all the same. Doesn't want them to look cookie cutter, but, with appropriate amenities and shutters and colors, I'm sure they can, be different enough. But, there would be that would be the sort of layout. There would be nurses on site, so that, if somebody's having a tough day or needs just to be checked in on to make sure, you're taking your meds or whatever it may be, they would live in one of those units. I don't know, I guess they have shifts or whatever. Didn't get into that too much, but it's a close working relationship. So basically, Jenny took our planning director, Jenny Gingras, took the point of getting him in touch with appropriate state agencies, especially on the funding side. We just threw out, the only thing I, at that point, threw out was, they have to do 20% affordable. If we wanted to go to 25, we would need to subsidize one unit
And this would not.
of these 18.
Yeah, so the way they've structured this, they
One
probably don't want these people to apply through the statewide application process, or, when there are openings for affordable housing, like with the housing authority, people have to go through that. They probably don't want to
So-
operate that
well-
way.
So these
maybe a
are
one-off.
rental units,
These are
Yes.
rental
and
units.
they're affordable, they go through the state system by
They
law.
have, the affordable units do.
The affordable
The other
units
ones,
do.
no.
But they want specifically to target a population that,
That can be done through the state
okay,
process.
all right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they would be the ones that would have to work with the state.
And
this
add the
is-
additional
the-
restrictions or desired
Unless it's
qualities.
Private.
Yeah, because I was wondering, are we thinking we might support this in some way? And if we did, would this count for our
So-
SHI or?
It will. So
not? Yeah.
zoning requires that 20% of the units
Yeah.
are SHI
Right.
compliant.
Yes.
So we would get
So private or not
five
private.
units.
They have to be SHI compliant, and
But what if it's all affordable? What if-
No,
even,
he couldn't make the numbers, I
Okay.
think, if it's all affordable.
Okay,
right,
All these units?
yeah.
No. I
right.
mean,
So these,
that's
so,
not his plan.
yeah,
Oh,
so,
okay, okay.
so there are actually, there's state if he's building this as supportive housing or transitional housing,
That's what I
there
was
actually,
thinking it is.
there's specific funding programs for these types of developments. 0% interest, no payments for 40-year type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny was
And-
mentioning that.
And they have requirements on percentages that are actually higher, right? So for those programs, depending on his AMI level, potentially up to 60% will have to be affordable,
Right.
right? And so, but the application process would still be statewide, but would be but would target and be restricted to people who need the supportive services, right? You can do that kind of component within the statewide. If he's partnering with advocates, it sounds like they're going to manage the marketing and the qualification
Yep.
component.
Yeah.
That they'll be the agent.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
go on
And
the
I'm very
website
I'm
and
very
just type
familiar with
advocates, you'll
advocates.
find.
It's a whole range of mental health
Yeah,
services and
yeah,
a
they do.
great.
They work a lot with,
Oh, yeah, no,
a
That
great
sounds
player in the
fantastic.
community.
So-
Yeah,
We're a little
right?
out of
Fantastic
there.
concept, a
There-
great
Yeah.
addition, yeah.
there's a definite need
this
for
eight-
Yes,
for that.
absolutely.
These 18 units are phase one,
Yeah, and then there'll be a second
With-
phase going up
if-
to
if-
40.
total of 40
40.
units. If and when he can move off septic onto town sewer.
Right.
They can't build
Ah.
40 minutes, they don't have enough room to do 40 units with a septic system.
Is,
Yeah, so I've seen
so
this,
they-
yeah,
they've seen- Yeah,
right.
that's
So,
the leach field.
um,
See, they have to use part of the property just for septic and.
right,
And he thinks he can do that for the 18, but
They
not
can
for the
for the
phase
18,
two,
but
it'd
not
have
for
to,
the
okay.
40.
There's no room
contracting,
for the
yes,
40, so-
yes.
the second phase is dependent on future
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
wastewater allocation. So,
So anyhow,
Cool.
really the planning board, they're taking at this point, really the lead because it needs a lot of work to be done, but,
I-
once again, this is, as far as affordable, just in general, building, the more housing we have, the better. Affordable is great, but just having, prices when you're renting something this small, the cost of building them is, is a lot less than your rents will be lower,
Yeah.
hopefully, so.
right.
I was also wondering if Advocates is doing a master leasing situation where,
It's doing what?
a master leasing situation.
He didn't mention that.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Jenny will, maybe in a month, I can touch base with her and just say any progress. on it.
I was gonna suggest we do a working group on this, that, so that we can ask those questions and talk about, depending, if he's going after state funding, it might be as simple as letter, a voted letter of support, right? As part of his
Right.
application process from us. It could be, if any of those funding programs require, some form of local match, that we step in with a small subsidy. He's gotta do 20% for zoning. Again, the state programs for supportive housing, some have requirements up to 60%, depending on your AMI level. So like if he was 80% AMI, it might be 60% affordable. If it's 50% AMI, it might only be 30% or 40% affordable, right? So they'll be working with that, but also just, having questions about, master lease and are all the units gonna be supportive housing, or is he looking to mix, so that he can have some market rate commuter type units in there as well.
It just sounds like it's what he's
Well, he.
planning
Yeah,
financially.
yeah.
He would
he'll
have
need to
market,
do,
yeah,
yeah,
for-
you
for
thought
that
so,
size,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
But
what-
market rate can be part of the supportive housing program too, right? So
Right,
is he
okay.
gonna have, are all the units gonna be in the supportive housing program or not? Questions like that, it might be, it might be good to talk to him about, those types of things, and even potentially, a local preference
Right.
for some of the units or the affordable component that says, hey, folks in transition who live or work in Westborough,
There are like people in,
Get first-
that-
Westborough Housing
Get first
Authority
dibs.
that would fit.
Does that,
probably into
does
the-
that work with the statewide system? Can we add, can that be added as part of the statewide
Yeah.
system?
The local preference?
Yes.
EOHLC has to
Okay.
approve
Prove
it.
it.
Okay,
And there are often limits on quantity and duration, but, that can be managed.
Okay.
And basically what happens is, if a local preference is in place, someone on the wait list who meets the local preference bumps up.
yeah.
If there's no one on the wait list, then
Just moves along.
it just moves along. So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily add delay. And then private private developments that, the wait list is actually less formal for privately owned developments that are rental. They list with the OHLC, there are state websites that you can go to that'll list all available affordable apartment complexes and which ones have openings and stuff like that, and the preferences, and it happens there. So most developers will hire a consultant to manage the registration and the marketing and stuff like that. But again, even if we offer to help coordinate marketing of the units when they're available and connect with youth and family services and things of that nature, it might be good just to have a small working group, maybe 2 people.
What I would suggest is let me, at this stage, after talking, it seems Jenny has taken a lead.
Right.
I will stay in touch with Jenny as she believes that he needs help in areas or whatever, I'll report back. So I'll report back next meeting
Okay,
of what progress, if any, they've made.
okay.
I'll ask Jenny what we need to do.
Can
And
Kate send
I will
you,
keep Kate in the loop on this.
can Kate
as
send
well.
you a list of questions that you forward to Jenny?
Sure, or
Okay.
just, yeah, or if you just want to send them to Jenny as well.
And CC Ed.
to
That way,
CC.
you can
I
ask
don't- I
about,
don't-
is this
yeah.
master lease, you're curious, is it master lease arrangement, stuff like this.
Yeah.
Because I think we should open it for discussion, potentially a subsidy, but more likely in this case, just other
Okay.
type of logistical support for the project.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, if Advocates is involved, my guess is that they have a plan of who they want to be in this. I have some assumptions here that I could be wrong about, but I would like to know how the Housing Trust, as Alan has indicated, could just be supportive to this project. So is it that we need to support via letters to different entities to say, hey, we're supportive of this? Or is it that we need to provide a small subsidy? What is it that we need to do to support this project? And so I'm happy to kind of be involved in that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So-
So, I think,
And given the nature of the project, community and community outreach early is going to be very important.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, because we've seen that up by the state hospital.
Yeah,
And I wonder,
Similar dynamic.
yeah.
I wonder if a local preference would make the marketing piece, the local marketing piece, more palatable. And I don't know if the developers have already considered that or really thought through that, but that's something.
I think they're,
Might be
given,
considered,
right now, I think his first step is to try to find where can he get funding? What's the best place to get funding?
Right.
I don't know how, regular commercial bank would look at this project and value it. And I asked what his cap rate was, which he threw out at, I think it was 8 million. 8 million developments, really not the cap rate. Cap rate's your return, but he would say this would be about an 8 million. He believes to
Right.
build this,
All for private.
which is 500,000 per unit, roughly, a little less. Because it's 18 units, so.
That 8 million is probably the full 40 units.
Oh, really?
Maybe, because that 500 seems high for
something.
this
Something
size,
yeah.
small unit. But
Although he
the,
has-
but
I
the,
mean,
but
he has a
for
lot, I mean,
four-
he has
for
a lot of,
40,
he has a lot of
that's only 200K.
he has a lot of infrastructure. I mean, it's a small property, but the number of units, so just even think about, roadway and sidewalk. There's a lot of,
But it's fairly high density.
right.
It's-
Right, but he's still looking at running water, sewer, other utility, electric cable underground.
Yeah.
Fire hydrants, paving, curbing, sidewalk. There's a lot of infrastructure to
Lots to
connect
it.
18 small homes.
yeah. But I think
So
this
that's
is
a couple-
past the
that's probably a
planning
couple.
board.
Pardon?
I think this is past planning board.
He has a permit?
You're saying he does?
I'm asking. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, we can find out.
I don't know if he's
Yeah.
permitted yet.
So, yeah.
Something tells
Okay, so
me
you'll-
no, something tells me no, he hasn't pulled the permit, but there aren't any other hurdles he needs to jump through from the town side. That was my understanding, but once again,
So they've issued the special permit.
I got that
Well,
feeling. We didn't
okay.
get into it
We
too
can
much. We
find
were
out.
looking
We can
more
find out.
on,
Okay.
how can we help you get off, the starting block.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing I have is the Baylor Avenue, the LIP application to EOHLC has been completed pending Jenny's signature. Since it's now at a town level, I mean, we're not involved anymore, but just to keep people updated, so this just came out yesterday, and so I assume she will sign that, and that'll go up so that EOHLC will give a final blessing on that affordability per the specs and deed restrictions and all the other good stuff, so, but that's.
So when do we get our shovels?
When you get a shovel, I have some work I need in my backyard.
No. I guess it would be,
Yeah.
my request would be for our August meeting that the developer provide, even if it's just a memo, like where is he with the, the hazmat remediation and the demolition permit, right?
Right, I can answer, can you give me, give us a status
Where he
update.
is on the
Yeah,
timeline.
and what do we?
I haven't
see as the
driven by
timeline?
his-
He had promised that, I haven't pestered him, but, we'd like to see, there is a condition, I forget how long, between the
Yes.
time he bought and the time he
Yeah.
has to start development.
6 months,
And
I believe, so.
Yeah, so, and I think he bought in March, so tick-tock.
Yeah,
Which I'm not worried about that, I mean,
I'm getting worried.
you're
We
getting
haven't
worried,
seen the-
okay. You
We haven't,
worry, I won't.
I would have expected the demolition permit, which would have included the removal of the hazardous materials to be pretty quick.
And we don't know
If
if that's
there are-
happened
And I
yet?
and I haven't driven
Okay.
by, I don't know if he's had that,
Okay,
if he's dealt with the
All right.
abandoned car.
I can, given that I just got this, that's a good point in which to, thank you so much for
We'd like a full-
copying
we'd
us.
like a full
and,
update.
We're looking to get a status update, and, I can get that out earlier than next meeting.
Okay.
Cool.
So-
All right, any other issues?
Yes, I think-
on the agenda?
Speaking of Baylor Avenue and our HB Cottage efforts, I think it would be good for us to schedule an evening meeting at some point soon and invite abutters and neighbors to those two projects, just so we can provide, once we get the update in August, and start, engaging with the community on these projects, so they understand what we're thinking, what we're going, where we are in the process, how we expect it to move forward.
The update on,
Baylor Avenue, as well as.
Baylor, yeah.
As
definitely.
well as the HB Cottage sites. We should engage
Uh,
those neighborhood,
For,
Beach Street and High Street,
yeah.
and say,
You know,
look, this is the direction we're heading in, these are our plans.
It would
this
be
is how the
nice to have
process
some
is gonna work."
pictures or concepts, I
Yeah.
think.
We have concept drawings right now that are good enough for a public meeting.
Uh.
We have a variety of sample photos we can provide as what they may look like. Saying that, of course, final designs will come from the developers as part of the RFP, but at least explain people, explain to people
Yep.
where we are,
What-
what the process is gonna be, what type of units they're gonna be in general, and then, at what points will we be re-engaging with them to give them a better sense of what it's gonna look like and get their feedback and input.
Right.
I'd love to have community support lined up
Mm-hmm.
prior to issuing the RFP.
I know there'll be on Baylor. Baylor's almost a separate meeting because it's a one-off, he has the design, et cetera. Those people, there's no problem in getting community support for that
Right,
project.
it's more of an update, so I would suggest as an evening meeting where we say, we start at 6:30 or 7.
30, and we're gonna talk about
and
Baylor.
Baylor Avenue, we're gonna talk for up to 30 minutes, and then we're gonna talk about
7
these other
o'clock,
projects, and
yeah.
people can come and go as they want. but
Yeah, that's good.
Rather than trying to schedule 2 meetings.
Yeah, I agree.
I-
Two topics, but we can do it in one evening.
Yeah. Question just related to those two properties. I'm assuming the town is regularly mowing both of those
They,
properties at this point?
well, nothing on 45 because it's just
Right.
woodland.
But Beach
But on
and-
Beach, they
and
came
Baylor?
and they did
It's,
trim all the hedges, you know. 'cause-
and they cut the front and the side of the house.
And they cut, yeah.
But
They
are they
will-
doing it again?
It is on the regular schedule.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
What about Baylor? I haven't driven by, so I don't know.
Baylor's the responsibility of the developer, so.
Okay.
We don't own
Okay,
it
so we
anymore.
can't- okay.
We could drive,
okay.
if it's overgrown, we can let him know he needs to address it to avoid neighbor concerns.
Yeah,
That's all.
that, I mean, but he's the owner now, so.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Anything else?
Nope.
Good, all right, well, we covered a lot. I don't have anything else. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second, Steve. All right, all those in favor? 5-0, 5 being present. And thank you, Westborough TV.
Thank you.